I titled this message before I went on my sabbatical because I felt sure that I would learn something worth sharing over 3 months. And you know, when I went on sabbatical, perhaps you were one of the 700,000 people who asked me, what are you going to do on sabbatical? And I kept saying the same things over and over again. I had 2 big questions and 1 major goal. My 2 questions were, do I still want to do ministry? And is New Vision Center still my right and perfect place? And it's difficult to answer those questions while you're in the middle of the doingness, right? To get your head clear enough with the to-do list and the meetings and the meetings and the meetings. Meetings. There are so many meetings. And so I was going to take advantage of this space to find out, is ministry still what I want to be doing after, 6+ years of kind of head down, shoulder go? And is New Vision Center still my right and perfect place? And I'm delighted to announce that my answer to both has been a resounding yes. I didn't wander or wobble or stray even the tiniest bit. Nothing else holds me the least bit of interest to me. I even went to the international convention, which was wonderful, in Charleston, South Carolina. And people try to hire me away. Can you imagine the audacity? And here I am, just where I ought to be. My big goal, you probably heard me say it if you were one of those 700,000 that asked, was to become as rested and as healthy as possible. Anybody remember hearing me say that? As the Yiddish adage goes, we plan and God laughs. But the good thing is, in all the laughing, I learned some stuff that I think is worth bringing home to y'all. So, you might know I have some health challenges. Hey, new friends, I have some health challenges. Now you're caught up. And I really thought I was going to have 3 months of no work and rest, and I was going to feel amazing every day for 3 months. Doesn't that sound delightful? I thought so too. So promptly, my health took a total nosedive, my medicine stopped working, and I had a crash. Oh, I know, right? So I'm sitting in the doctor's office, and I have a really fantastic rheumatologist who, I don't think she's a science of minder, but she might as well be because she talks like us. And I said, I don't understand. If I work too much, I set off a flare. So I thought for sure, not working for 3 months, I was going to feel amazing. And she said, you fell into the logical fallacy. And I see people do this all the time, she says. You think if I work too much, I get sicker. So if I work less, I get less sick. And if I can control every single variable of my entire life and not work at all, I will be magically healed. And it doesn't work like that. Well, I didn't like that answer at all. I had a plan. I told 700,000 people about it. I was going to be totally healthy every minute. And I went home and I told my husband about it, and I told my mother about it, and I told my daughter about it. And bit by bit, I started realizing I was sure using that word control a lot. Control. And where do I get to the place where I think I should be able to control things? Well, indignant me pulls out my science of mind and says this is from the Declaration of Principles, or the What We Believe statements. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through universal mind, which is the law of God. And then skipping forward a few lines, and we believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. Ooh, there's that word, control. Now, before this whole thing happened, I would have told you, I know that it's not control like use my laser beam mind to get out there and make people act different, right? But I was sure mad when it didn't work. on my timing and in the way I deemed necessary. And so to wake my minister brain back up, I was invited to play something called Sofa Sundays, which is a smaller gathering of religious science folks, science of mind folks, that do a Sunday service that's very different than ours. It's more like watching a live podcast. It's super fun. They broadcast it on social media, and you can go back and watch it anytime you want. And so they said, come play with us. Let's see if we can get your brain operating again. That's a great idea. And I brought this thing about control, and I said, if I could do a seance, I'd bring back Ernest Holmes. I want to have a little debate about this word control in the Declaration of Principles, because I'm not convinced we control anything, nor should we want to. Because control, right? Make it do what I want. And the sweet gal that I've known for years raises her hand from the back. Ahem. And Amy has looked up the meaning, the definition of control from the back row, and she reads this: the power to influence or direct behavior or the course of events. Well, my friends, as is so often the case, I was way too focused on directing the behavior and forgetting about influence. In the modern use of the word control, the directing has taken the key position in that definition. But when Ernest was writing, it was more about influence. As conscious beings, do we influence the course of events? Yes. Do we force them to be what we decide? No. Oh, gosh darn it. I'd fallen into my own trap, the one I warned y'all about. Can you believe that we're not completely perfect yet? I, too, am shocked. So I found a path of peace through the surrender, the ever deeper, ever expanding surrender into the idea that the universe doesn't need me to control it or to force it into anything. I get to extend my influence and then enjoy the ride. And as is so often the case, having some health challenges during the course of this adventure caused me to need to be still, which is not my gift. It's not a thing I naturally like to do. So I thought I better do something that will force me to sit still. So as a 39-year crocheter, I decided to learn to knit. And I'm a crazy person, so do you think I knitted one little thing? No. Do you think I stayed in the beginner patterns? No. No, I did crochet 3 blankets, but I was also working on my knitting. And with knitting, it's different than crochet. Crochet, each stitch attaches to the stitch before it. So if you make a mistake, you can go bloop and then fix it. Well, knitting, every row is attached to the entire row beneath it. So if you see a stitch, you can't go bloop. You have to go and perhaps miss a stitch and the whole thing goes down. The stakes are high. So I'm knitting. And I notice I've twisted a stitch, which is a thing that can happen, where you just sort of go through the wrong. It's a mistake, but it's a relatively small mistake, and you have the choice. Am I going to just live with the mistake, hope nobody notices, or am I going to fix it? Remember, fixing, right? Ah! Let me also add to this, it's late when I'm doing this, when everyone makes their very best decisions. So I look at it and I'm like, I'm a new knitter, nobody cares, it's fine. And I keep knitting. Well, I'm a new knitter, so it's... For actual knitters, at least I learned continental. So it's, instead of... It's a knitting joke for the 6 of us, right? Everybody else, it was hilarious. Just trust me. So I get up in the morning, and I've forgotten all about this twisted stitch. It's a whole other day now. And I'm knitting, and I'm knitting, and I'm knitting, and I get about, 9 rows done. And then I look, turn it around. So I'm not in the round yet. I'm in the upper part of the sweater where you got to turn it around a lot. And I look, and it is not a twisted stitch. I don't know what I did to this thing. I think I inserted an alligator into it, and it chewed through the I don't know what I did, but it is not a small mistake. It is not a little problem. And when I hold it up to where it will sit, guess where it's going to sit? Right here. A completely ignorable location on this physique. So now I have a real decision on my hands. Do I throw the whole thing in the garbage and pretend like it never happened? No. I'm going to have to rip back, not the 2 rows that it would have been, but 9 rows plus the 2 rows to fix that error. And isn't that just the way it goes? We mess something up. We think, maybe no one will notice. And as we sneak around and hope nobody sees it, it gets bigger and worse and more complicated. And the longer we try to hide from it, the bigger the mistake gets. And the harder it is to undo the tangle of lives and hurt feelings and fixing the compounding interest of a mistake we've tried to hide. When we could have just said, oh, my bad. I did this thing. How can we fix it? Right away. When it would have been 2 rows to rip back instead of 11. Oh, friends. And so it just reminded me and landed a deeper way of the peace that comes from owning our mistakes quickly. Just owning them. It's a piece of integrity. Fixing it early. Not trying to hide it from anyone, because you know who you're never going to hide it from? Yourself. I don't know how bad that mistake really was. Would every single person have looked at it and gone, geez, that girl can't knit? No, but I would have. It's the only thing I would have seen looking at that sweater. I bet I wouldn't have even worn it, because I would see that mistake every time. We may be able to hide it from everybody else, but we're never going to hide it from ourselves. So that's the lesson I bring you from knitting. That, and oh my God, baby clothes are so cute. All of this, from the knitting to the health to all of it, it led me to spend a lot of time in quiet. Now, I like quiet. I'm a big meditation girl. I talk about it a lot because I know the advantages that silence and quiet has brought in my own life. And I will acknowledge I had an assumption that so much quiet was just going to be blissful. It was just going to be lovely, and I was going to be in heaven in the quiet of my own mind. But I forgot that I live there. I'm for sure in there. And I spent the first third of my sabbatical going, I don't even know who I am without New Vision Center. What do I do? How do I think? Do I even exist and matter in a world where I am not a minister at New Vision Center? And poor Bobby just was like, take a breath. Maybe watch a movie, maybe a little less quiet time. The thing is, even when you set everything up perfectly, even when you design it all perfectly and beautifully, life is still going to happen. You're still in there, and things are going to unfold, even though I would say that the majority of the drama happens because of New Vision Center in my life. People are getting married, people are having babies, people are getting sick, people are dying, people are having spiritual crises, and we're holding them through that space. It's not drama in a bad way, it's a lot of activity happens in my world through New Vision Center. And I thought, ooh, a break from all of that, I will be so mellow and peaceful. Which makes it exactly the right timing for my 16-year-old sweet Pomeranian, who was the puppy of my soul, who I have not led a meditation without, who I have not taught a class without, who I've never touched a Science of Mind book without, to decide it's time for him to make his transition. Look at that little face. In that picture, I am lying. It wouldn't be New Vision Center if we didn't cry. I am lying on the couch, so sick with COVID. And those of you who were around during those days know I was so sick that I came back using a walker and then a cane. Look, I can walk now. I'm laying on the couch and he's right here, his face in my face. Hi, Mom. That's where he always was. He only had 2 settings, happy and asleep. Not a very smart dog, but so sweet. And I was at home in the quiet to care for him over his only 1 week of being sick, and then to sit in weeks and weeks of grief. Bigger grief than I've ever had. And I kept saying, I can't believe I'm like this about a dog. But it's my dog. And Bobby kept saying, what would you say to a congregant who said that? And I would say, but it's your dog. You love that dog. And I'm so grateful I had the time and the space to not have to come here and try to pretend like I had it together while I held y'all through what was going on in your world. And I could just sit at home in the quiet and the tears. It's been 2 months and I'm still like this. Grief is a funny thing. But what it taught me, this idea that it was going to be so easy, and then feeling so buried in the grief and in the quiet with nowhere to hide. I couldn't come here and tell funny stories. I just had to stay home and sit in it. What it shared with me is how often I hide from what's going on the inside of me. Even as somebody who teaches to go into the silence, even as someone who goes into the silence a lot, I use the busyness of the world, as do not we all, to hide from the parts that we're not willing to deal with or we're not ready to deal with, which is why sabbaticals are so important. Not everybody has a job where you can say, okay, here's my 3 months to go sit on the couch and knit so many sweaters. Bobby's wearing one right, oh, he took it off because he's hot. Bobby's holding one right now. Ooh. Don't look too closely, there definitely are twisted stitches. Yeah, you may not have a job where you're invited, or in fact, in this job, told that it's time to do that. But we all have access to meditation time, to a silent few hours, to a 1-day retreat, to a week somewhere deepening. And I just really invite us to take it. There's more for you to know about you. And it's only in that quiet that you can find it. I don't know if you know the writer Anne Lamott, but I sort of think she walks on water. I really love her work. I'm going to close with a quote from her. She said, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. So the invitation is unplug, find a way, choose you, and unplug. Thank you. Let's anchor this idea in with some prayer. How good it is to simply open up to the knowingness that there is infinite spirit right in the interior of who and what we are, that we are made of this infinite presence that is all love, all wisdom, all peace, all power. How good it is to remember that this is true of our individual selves. And it is true of everyone everywhere. It's true of everyone we love and everyone we understand. And it's true of everyone we're having challenges with and everyone we don't understand and everyone we don't even know. That every sentient being is one in this oneness. And right where we are, right in that quietude of the inside of our own selves, what we call the inner temple of the Most High, is the healing for whatever it is that we are bringing to life in this moment. And so even as we speak this prayer, I simply affirm that Spirit is on the job, healing our pain, clarifying the answers to the questions we bring to the Temple of Wisdom, and opening us up to our next great adventure. As long as we turn within and listen, our soul is already answering the questions. So with gratitude on behalf of all of us, I call it all good. And so it is.